Hello to everyone and welcome. Dr. Rob Kiltz, Carnivore Conversations with Caitilin Weeks. And I'm really excited to have Caitilin here today, a full-time blogger, author of 4 cookbooks. Wow. Mediterranean Paleo Cooking, many years of experience as a certified nutritional consultant, a holistic lifestyle coach, and professional personal trainer in San Francisco, California. Wow, Caitilin, nice. Has had success. Let's see, conquering obesity after a lifelong struggle with her weight. Since 2009, she's been winning the battle against Hashimoto's thyroiditis using an ancestral template. There's more to say here, but I just want to welcome you and thank you for being here. And maybe you could share a little bit about yourself and how you got to this keto carnivore paleo world.
Yes, well, thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited. I grew up in the South eating, biscuits and then, later got into like the really low fat movement and was exercising all the time and I was drinking my Diet Coke, and I was really into yo-yo dieting in high school and then in college. And by about my senior year, I gave up the dieting and I was just like, I'm going to eat whatever I want. And I got up to 240 pounds. So
Whoa.
I was pretty depressed when I graduated. I was like, I graduated, but I don't even want to walk across the stage. So when I got back home and I was kind of out of that party lifestyle, I started losing weight with Weight Watchers and it worked. I was so young and I was cutting my calories and I just thought I'd found the answer and I got to be really thin and I decided to become a personal trainer. So I wanted to tell everyone about I found the answer. I
Yeah,
wanted to
yeah.
help everyone and say it's easy. You just, count your calories and work out all the time. And I was like, I don't see why everyone doesn't do this. And then about, 7 or 8 years goes by and all of a sudden I can barely get out of bed. And it's like my joints are aching so bad. I even doing like an 8-pound dumbbell was like aching for 2 weeks, after. And I had just no energy. I had to like hold the wall when I was training people, or I had to sit on a bench. And it was weird, and even my digestion started going crazy. I couldn't, like, I'd never really had any health problems before. And like, I couldn't digest anything. Everything was like making me bloated and I was getting rashes. And it was almost seemed like my body was just turning inside out or something.
Wow.
And I didn't know what to do. So, of course, you go to the doctor and they say, oh, you're getting older now. I was around 30. So I was like, just accept this. And they were like, maybe you should try a different birth control pill or, something like that. And I was like, I don't know. This doesn't seem just normal aging. And because I had to sleep like 18 hours a day. I mean, to
Wow.
even function, I was drinking a whole pot of coffee, like a big pot of coffee before I even could go to work or anything. Every spare moment, I was just sleeping. And so I had somebody gave me some tests to run to ask for them to be run. And so they were kind of out of the box. It was like from a chiropractor that my mom had seen. And so I got those tests and I had a friend that was a naturopathic doctor and she saw the test and she said, you have Hashimoto's, like immediately. She knew that I needed thyroid medication and that was my whole issue. Like I didn't have low TSH though. I had like a 1, like a perfect TSH. But she saw the antibodies and she knew that that was my problem.
Hmm.
And she wasn't like super big into diet, so she was just kind of like, "Oh, just rest and eat a balanced diet." Or I was like, "Okay, whatever." And but then I started meeting more people. It's funny how you kind of like run into people and I was in San Francisco, so a lot of people were talking about gluten-free and paleo and stuff like that. And I had also before this, I had experimented with being a vegetarian. So with the low fat, then I kind of added in the vegetarian piece towards the end. And I think that was really the nail in the coffin for my thyroid because I was eating so much soy. I was eating soy like twice a day, all the soy burgers and the fake foods. And I was making like tofu smoothies. And I mean, just really went overboard with the
Wow.
soy because
Uh-huh.
I'm like a hardcore, like when I do something, I do it all the way. And so it was like big mess. And then, so I started meeting people that were doing gluten-free and paleo, and I started learning about that. And I decided to go to nutrition school. And it was a 2-year program. About the second year, the first year was really kind of reinforcing the vegetarian thing. And I was like, see, I was doing everything right. And then the second year, they started talking about Weston A. Price. And I was like, oh, okay, that's totally different. Like no soy and eating your ancestral diet. And I was like, this makes much more sense to me because I was always starving. I was always like, needed a snack in my purse. I had, when you're a trainer, you have like a big cooler you take around with you and you have like 5 little meals in it. And, you're always just like eating egg whites and, it's just like, so I had tried it all. I'd done the 5 meals a day. I'd done the vegetarian. I never was a full vegan, thank goodness, but it really only took like a year of eating that soy-based diet for my thyroid to really crap out on me. And my dad does have Hashimoto's as well, but of course I didn't know that. And because the doctors, they always downplay it, like just take your thyroid medication. So my dad didn't know that he had an autoimmune disease or anything. He never told me, oh, thyroid disease runs in our family or anything like that. I had no idea. So I didn't even know that was like a thing that he took or anything. So, it all made more sense later on, but I don't believe, of course, that the genetics is all of it. It's just a small part of it,
So
we really,
it's I always say that the DNA is simply the predisposition to something. But the environment is still the issue. But keep going. This is very interesting.
so, but if I had known that, maybe I could have, researched it or something. But anyway, so I started studying nutrition and learning about Weston A. Price and all that stuff. And I started doing paleo diet. I was doing that for a long time. And then I realized that I couldn't handle all the sweets and the honey and the sweet potatoes and things like that are allowed on the paleo diet. But the science of it made a lot of sense to me. And, that we got shorter and our teeth started falling out when we were eating grains and stuff like that. So I really gravitated towards that and, following all those people. And I started blogging recipes and then I got more into like the low carb because I realized that was better for me because I'm kind of like a binge eater and I can't handle just like one bite of something. So I was like, okay, it's better for me if I just don't have sweets. Even when I try to eat keto treats, I eat like the whole recipe rather than just one. And so I was realizing, I was learning a lot about myself. And then, so I kept doing that. And then, but I had such bad digestion. It was still really bad. Even though I was eating low carb and low, like keto, I was still eating a lot of vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower are my favorites. I was really good at making like purees and soups and things like that. So I was just eating still a ton of vegetables. I kind of thought that even though I knew they had carbs, I was kind of like, they're free food, kind of like that Weight Watchers idea of just vegetables are free. So I would just kind of fill up on vegetables. And I was kind of, and even like in keto, they're always saying, limit your protein, limit your meat. And so I was eating like 4 ounces of meat. Then I would eat this huge amount of vegetables. And then I was still starving. And I was just like, I don't know, I can't lose weight. I don't understand this. And I mean, I did get healthier. All my thyroid numbers got better and better. I did feel better. It was the first time I started to feel more like I had balanced blood sugar. Like I could go for 4 hours without eating. Well, and that was like the first time in my life. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool because I was eating more fat. I was eating more protein, but it was still like not enough. So when I learned about the carnivore diet, I had a friend who was like, well, I think it could really help your digestion, because I was still struggling with all this bloating. And I said, well, I really don't want to do that. I've already cut out all these foods. And by then I was basically eating meat, broccoli, and chocolate. And I was just like dark chocolate. And I was like, I don't want to cut anything else out. And she was like, well, just give it 30 days and see. And I was like, well, okay. So eventually it took me like 3 or 4 months to get started. And then I started, and like I felt so good within like 24 hours that I was like, I thought about like, I'm going to keep doing this. Like it's so, just all the bloating went away. And it took a little while for my digestion, because it was very slow, and it took a while for it to start moving in a better way, because that's part of your detoxification system, and that's really important that you are going, not as much as people who eat like tons of vegetables, but you still need to be going a couple times a week. So anyway, I got better and better. My thyroid numbers got better. But then I lost a lot of weight, and then I got pregnant and I had a baby. So I gained all the weight back. So I gained like 50 pounds. And then, so the last 3 years I've just been nursing and trying to sleep, and then trying to lose the weight and trying to kind of, when you're not sleeping. And I had a C-section, so I had a big surgery, and it's a lot to recover from. And then you're still not sleeping, so it feels like you kind of got knocked down. You lost a lot of steps in your health, and you just kind of have to rebuild it. So
Tell us
I'm
a
really,
little.
go
Tell
ahead.
us a little about the grass-fed girl and your focus on carnivore, and I guess you've gone through the Weight Watchers, paleo, uh, keto world, and now what's your focus on food?
Oh, well, it's still carnivore. I've been carnivore almost 5 years now. When I was pregnant, I ate a little bit of fruit, but not much. And um, so I was mostly carnivore the entire time. And, my baby is just super, super healthy. And he's the cutest thing you've ever seen. My husband doesn't like me to put pictures online, but he's so, so cute. And he's just like, he's the healthiest looking baby I've ever seen. I know I'm biased, but
So, how young is your baby now?
he's 3. He's just
3.
about 3. He has his birthday in a few weeks.
And tell us a little bit about his nutrition.
I try to really limit sugar, and I always start every meal with like eggs or meat. And then, if he wants some fruit, I let him have like berries or raspberries or blueberries or whatever, strawberries. I always try to get organic berries, and he eats a lot of yogurt. I get my milk from a raw farmer nearby, and he drinks a lot of that. And I just try to lead like with protein and fat. And then if he wants treats and something, I just try to limit it. Or if like try to have a small amount at one time, since I don't want him to have like a big blood sugar spike or meltdown or something, so I just try to limit. Or if he has something with sugar that it also has fat, like say I would give him vanilla ice cream, for example, rather than like a lollipop. Does that make sense?
Yeah, Kiltz's ice cream. Have you tried it? Need to try it.
Okay.
It's cream and eggs and very, very little sugar. So when you were transitioning from the paleo keto to the carnivore world, what were the things that you noticed the most by doing that?
Really, I think the blood sugar was a big one. I could go for 6 hours, 8 hours without eating. I'm not a big fasting person, because it just feels like, I know you're into fasting a lot, but I think because I went through so much dieting and all, it brings up all those feelings and it always makes me overeat. So I feel like I didn't always negate any benefits that I would get, because I just start feeling like restricted and kind of crazy. So, but I could go, many hours, like without thinking about food. That was like the freedom there was just really great. And the bloating and the digestion piece was really helpful.
And did you learn any of this in your nutrition studies, or is this all learned in a different way?
I went to nutrition school in about 2010, and it was about 2 years, so it's been a long time ago. But I did learn about Weston A. Price, which did kinda tip off the whole thing of learning about, that some people survived off whatever they had locally, so that some people drank just milk and raw blood and, wherever they grew up is where they ate, and people in Switzerland had sourdough bread, and people, it just depended on where they were, but like no one was a vegetarian. I really believe in all that.
Would you say that strictly a meat-based, animal-based diet is the healthiest thing that people should do, or do you think there's sort of some differences in our physiology?
I mean, maybe if somebody grew up, on the equator, they might have a different, access to some things. But, now we move around so much that, I mean, maybe we should look up our ancestry and see, and that would give us some clues to what we should eat. I'm from England, Scotland, Wales, whatever. And, so that, I guess I'm supposed to eat potatoes. I don't know. Um, but so, I mean, I think you can get some clues there. I mean, I think one of the best things I've learned about in carnivore is that plants are not just benign, like they're not just perfect, and they do have negative side effects. And especially some people are very sensitive to them. And I felt so much better when I cut out broccoli and cauliflower. And, everyone says they're good for DEM and, the estrogen, getting rid of estrogen and stuff. But I don't know. I never found any benefit. They just ripped up my guts. And, I like the taste, and I don't miss it. When I see it, I'm just like, I don't want that. But I used to think it was the best thing in the world. So learning about the plant toxins, I mean, I knew a little bit about like grains and stuff having phytates and lectins, but then learning about oxalates and stuff like that was just like really eye-opening. And that maybe some people are really hurting themselves with all these green smoothies, and that's what's in the soy is the goitrogens and the thyroid disrupting properties of soy.
So tell us a little bit about your thyroid issues, and what are your thoughts on those that are suffering from thyroid problems, maybe the cause, and what's the best way to help people heal?
I mean, I think it's a bunch of things. I think it's kind of like you said, it's kind of laying in wait, in a lot of people, and then waiting for that really traumatic event or set of events to present itself. So, I think the most important thing people can do is try to reduce their stress, manage their stress, learn. One of the most important things I learned in this journey is how to meditate and how to get in that meditative state. I didn't know that before. I just would like always push, push, push. And, then I'd pass out whenever I got too tired, but now I've learned a lot about the cues for the stress. And so learning to manage your stress in a different way, like maybe when you were younger, you just like drank alcohol, but I quit drinking alcohol over 17 years ago. So that was a big thing that helped me also. And I think you just have to start, you have to find the diet that works for you. I do think everybody needs to increase their protein a ton. They need to increase their good fats. They need to stop eating vegetable oil. They need to stop putting toxic crap on their skin. They need to like get rid of all the air fresheners and the toxic laundry detergent and all this stuff. I mean, that it's like a bucket. And once it fills up, that's your thyroid. Just, it's like a bucket just overflowing. And so you have this like toxin load that you can handle. And with all these things you're putting on your skin and breathing in all day, and then you're eating processed foods or soybean oil and canola oil, and it just, eventually it's going to bubble over, and you're going to be in the doctor's office wondering what's wrong with you.
And so maybe you talk a little bit about the environment in our homes and the things that we put on our skin, makeup, hair products, deodorants, and also about the cleansing products, the soaps, the detergents, and the cleaning products. What are your thoughts on those?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of opened my eyes to all that, and you just have to find some natural brands that you trust, and something simple like Dr. Bonner's or something like that is everywhere. It's just, you want no fragrances in anything, so that's going to cut out like 90% of the crap, because almost everything has fragrances. So you have to start reading just like you would your food. You have to start looking at the labels, and if it says fragrance, that can be like 3,000 different chemicals that they don't have to disclose. And they call it a proprietary secret for the company. So you just get something simple. You can make your own soaps if you're into that. People are you really into beef tallow and stuff like that. I've used Young Living as a lot of good products, that they make a lot of natural products. And then also Beauty Counter makes a lot of good products that are toxin free. But I mean, if you want to go really simple, just use some beef tallow, and you can go to your farmer's market and probably find somebody making soap or something like that. But just really be careful of the fragrance, because it is very difficult to avoid. It isn't everything. And deodorant has got crazy stuff in it. And that's a sensitive area for women where they're shaving, so they're kind of opening up their pores right there, and that's near our lymph nodes. So I mean, especially if you have cancer in your family, which most people do, and most people have had cancer, or, I really believe that skin cancer, for example, is like how your body reacts with the sun. It's not just the sun, so it's like my dad, for example, has skin cancer like all over his nose, but he loves fried food, and he always is eating fried food. And I'm like, Dad, stop eating the fried food.
What's he frying? What's he frying? What's the oil he
like
fries
at
with?
restaurants, and he loves like
Got it.
fried, seafood, or yeah, he's not cooking it himself.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, there's so much. So, what about going out to eat? What are your thoughts and advice for people that are going out to eat?
I mean, I think there's a borderline. You have to think about your mental health as well. Like, you can get so into this stuff that you almost want to live in a bubble, and you never want to go anywhere. And it becomes a type of like orthorexia. And I definitely have kind of suffered from that in this journey, because you start learning all this stuff, and you're afraid to drink water. You're afraid to breathe air. It can get really, so you have to find a balance. And, you have to also, I think we learned in, COVID, that we can't sacrifice socializing for our mental health. Like our mental health suffers even if we don't, like, we're trying to save our lives, but we will die anyway, because if we don't have socialization, we're going to be miserable, and we'll die of, depression. So, I think you have to find that balance, and you can't worry about every little thing. Like when I go out to eat, I don't worry that maybe they cooked my steak, there was some canola oil on the grill or something. I'm just like, whatever. I'm eating out. I don't eat out that much. So I'm going to enjoy this steak, and I don't care, but I'm not going to order fried food. I'm going to order the best thing I can find. I'm not going to go out to eat every single meal, because I know that doesn't make me feel good either. So, but I think one thing freeing about carnivore is just eat meat and don't think about it so much. It's just like, whatever, eat. I mean, I used to eat purely grass fed. when I was doing paleo. And, I've gotten the cows, and I've done all that. And now I kind of shop around everywhere, but the name was just kind of a good name, so I just stuck with it. um, and I think I've also learned, that cows are grass fed a good portion of their life anyway. And we can get local meat, and you're still if the meat is from America, you're still supporting, ranchers and good people like that. So I think that you have to just find a balance with your mental health and with what you can afford. Also, you can't go broke. You're going to pay one way or the other. If you're going to get diabetes or something, you're going to pay with your time or with your health or not being able to work. Or so, you do have to probably spend a little more than you used to, but I think you have to find a little balance and not go crazy with trying to be perfect, because you'll lose your good good vibes and everything.
Yeah, I don't go too crazy if it's grass fed or grain fed. I mean, all of them are grass fed and they're grain finished or grass finished. I don't think that's the big difference. And I also don't worry too much about if they use a little bit of oil on the pan if they're cooking my meat, because 99% of what I eat is fatty meat, and I'm not getting any significant plant oils in my belief. What are your thoughts on composition of meat in the sense of how much fat, protein we should be focusing on, or do you think that's really as critical as people say it is?
I mean, the reason I was drawn to carnivore in the first place was no counting.
Yeah.
Coming from Weight Watchers, where you count every little thing, it was very freeing to me to count. And then even in keto, it's like you're supposed to worry about your macros all the time. I really don't embrace this 80% fat thing, because it just makes me feel like I'm going nuts again, so I just kind of eat whatever I have. And, I love ribeyes and stuff, but when I am trying to lose weight, uh, I find it better not to dump fat on my food or something. But if I eat a ribeye, or if I eat a New York strip, or ground beef, like I like 80/20. I don't like 90/10, or, I like 80/20, or I can even eat 75/25. I mean, but it's better not to just eat it like that. And or whatever cut it is, I just eat it the way it is, but I try not to add a bunch of stuff to it, because like if I'm eating hollandaise or whipped cream or tons of butter, it tends to not help me lose weight.
Do you think that adding a little bit of fruit or a small amount of vegetables to your carnivore meal is anything significantly harmful?
I mean, I've noticed that, like, I kind of, I don't like everything that Paul Saladino says, but I do think that picking out the low toxin fruits, and I like to do the low carb, low toxin fruits. So like I can eat an avocado here and there. I can eat like a zucchini. I can eat olives, for example, cucumbers. I love pickles. If I want those every once in a while, it doesn't hurt me. Now, if I start eating cherries and all these fruits and watermelon, I start losing it. I can't do that. I can't have one piece of what, because I love fruit. I just can't stop. I did allow myself that in pregnancy, because I was just like, it was summertime, I was super hot, and and I was like, okay, I can get my vitamin C or whatever, but um it wasn't something that I can do, because I'll next thing I'm eating chocolate or cake, or so I have to just stay away from all that stuff. I mean, some people, if they want to play around with it, you have to know yourself. If you It's the same thing with me with dairy. Like, I think I can have a piece of cheese on my burger, and then next thing you know, I'm eating ricotta out of the out of the container, or something. Is like, and that's my dinner. It's like, okay, this isn't working. That shouldn't be your dinner. So you have to know yourself. Like, so it's better for me if I just don't eat dairy at all, because it's just so addictive for me, and it turns on all those pleasure centers of my brain.
Which is, we're meant to have a food addiction, because if you didn't, you likely would die when that food was around and you weren't eating it. So, it's, I always say food and sex are driven to do, even though some of it may hurt us, because ultimately survival and reproduction is the most important thing. And we're kind of dumb, and we have to be given some directions to do those things. The problem, I wonder what your thoughts are on maybe the excess of access to too much, too frequently, and too much variety is our biggest problem.